Okay. Hi everyone, glad to have you guys join us. It's a perfect day to join us from home. It's raining outside, but I'm glad to have you guys. We're shooting today from our live location here at the Castlefield showroom. So as we wait for everybody to come in, we'll just give you a brief tour of our showroom here at Castlefield. Come with me this way. You will see over here, we've got a very nice winter green kitchen. With some nice beautiful backsplash and lighting. Just some ideas, if you're thinking about redoing your kitchen anytime later in the year, give you some nice ideas that we do have up in here. And then come up over onto this side, you've got a nice white kitchen with glass uppers. Always throws a nice punch into it, right? You'll be able to see something different in there. Some nice lighting ideas. One of my personal favorite features is the way we've done the wine storage has been done over here. Always very, very interesting. It's different from what you'll often find, right? And then coming up over onto this side, you've got more of a family home that's nice and open. You've got this kitchen here. We've got two colors. We've got the white and the clay. Some nice lighting again with your backsplash continuing, just kind of gives you that little bit of oomph and interest into that kitchen with a nice big island that has a very nice feature on this side here. It kind of comes and lowers to have some nice family sitting area over here. You can be able to sit four. And then coming over onto this side, more storage as you come this way. And then here you've got a very, very nice modern kitchen. Personally, I do like this in here. Look at that. Got some nice beautiful glass doors with lighting inside. If you want to use that as a wine storage, you can have a section for your bottles in there. Now this is a nice fit, like if you've got a small kitchen in a condo or apartment, your preference. And then some nice upper storage, different from what you'll often see in the most spaces. Space for putting in some decor and a bit of storage at the top there. Always gives it some interest with that, yeah. And then as we come up over here, just some more island sitting options. The island doesn't always have to be part of the kitchen, like a space that's being used in the kitchen. This can be a nice very sitting area. And if you're working from home, sure, if you had a space like this, it would be so ideal. Wish I had this in my own house. It would be nice. That's awesome. But thank you so much, guys, for joining. And I'm looking forward to being able to get started with this. I'd like to see how many people we have going in so far.
We're good. We're in the team.
Awesome. All right, so we'll jump right in and get started. It's a topic there's a lot of interest for people. We often get clients who come into a showroom, and when we're about to do the first design consult, that's always the thing people ask: how can I increase the value of a home? Because granted, for many people, the first home is an investment home. So you want to make sure that the kitchen that you put in there is something that when you choose to sell the house is not something that's going to send people running. So we'll get started with that. You know that in most homes, the kitchen is no longer just a cooking area. It's a dining area, it's a place for entertainment, a place where you'd probably be using if you're working from home. Kids will be doing homework from there. So with all those things in mind, not just any kitchen is going to do. You have to make sure that as you're planning to sell the house or to do the renovation of that space, it's something that's going to add value. So starting with the first thing to keep in mind is you have to choose a style that suits your home. I don't know if you've ever any of you had the experience, I know I have, where seen this house which is on the market, you want to sell it, it's on sale rather, and you walk in, very nice, you've got a very nice living room area, everything looks good, and then you walk into the kitchen and you feel there's a disconnect. And oftentimes when you have that disconnect, it's the style that you saw coming in versus what you see now in that kitchen, they don't add up with each other. And you find once you see that disconnect, even as you walk through the rest of the house, that disconnect is still bothering you and it affects your view of the value of the home and your decision if you'd buy that home. And that's why making sure that the style of your kitchen suits the rest of the home. So here I have a couple of door styles that we feature at AyA that reflect different styles depending on the style you have for your home. So for example, if you have a more modern home, you'd be looking at your two doors that we have here. We've got a slab profile door. It's completely flat. Right? It has the handrail option if you want to go with the handleless look, Or if you want to have handles, we have the kitchen being featured over there on the right there, which has all the slab, it's just all slab doors and they've put in the handles. It speaks to a modern style, right? Optionally, if you're not feeling so much about the flat doors, you want just a little bit of interest into that modern space, we have this door, call it the Windermere door. It has a very, very slim railing around it, right? Still very much a modern style, but again, it's not completely flat, like this very sleek modern look. So, like for example, we have this particular door here in this kitchen, right? So kind of gives you a modern feel to it without it being, sometimes some people refer it to the slab door being cold for them. So it kind of gives you different options for that. So that's if you have a modern home. Optionally, if you have a transitional home, that would be a home that is, it's not traditional, nor is it ultra modern. We have some door styles here. And just as a note, we have a lot more door styles. This is not the limit to it, but just this one's just to illustrate what we have. We have, for the transitional home, you'd be looking more at the shaker door. This is actually one of the most popular doors you'll find in most homes, especially detached homes, as an example. We've got, it has the shaker profile right around, kind of gives the door a bit of a profile. And we have two of them, just to show you the difference, like the thickness of your railings. You've got a slimmer railing here versus a much thicker one. And this will often come down to even the size of your kitchen. Because for example, if you have a smaller kitchen, you don't want to be doing the very thick railing because it ends up becoming, it feels like it's been shrunk into that little space, right? So that's the second style option that you'd be looking at. And then finally, you're looking at your traditional style. Now your traditional styles tend to be more detailed on the doors. You've got a lot more grooving, you've got sometimes a raised panel option or the flat panel in the center, but the doors tend to have a lot more detail. So keeping in mind what is the style of your current home, right? To ensure that the style you select for your kitchen, they marry and agree with each other with the rest of the house, right? Because keep in mind that potential buyers, when they come in to look at the house, the first thing they'll be thinking about is how does it fit into their lifestyle, right? And that's something important to keep in mind. And I know sometimes this can be difficult trying to determine what is the style of your home. So this is where the services of professional kitchen designer come in very handy, right? Because a kitchen designer will help you to know, based on the style of your current home, what style of cabinetry should you be going with, right? And with that, once they help you to be able to determine that, and then also help you choose colors, which will come into in the later part of this Facebook Live, you always find that the kitchen designer's advice will prove to be helpful. On a note, at AyA, we're currently connecting with clients online. So if you're at the initial planning stages of your kitchen, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be connected with one of the designers online and be able to get started in at least the first step, knowing the style of your kitchen. Okay. The second thing to keep in mind is having a functional layout. This is equally as important as the style, because as clients, as potential homeowners come in to look at it, they're visualizing how will they work in that space, right? As they walk through that area, how does it work for them? So I'm sure you must be asking, what factors do I consider when I'm talking about a functional layout? How can I make my space more functional? So one thing to look at is storage. Will your kitchen have sufficient storage, and what type of storage should you use? Storage as a starting point would be something like your pantries at a starting point, and I'll show you a couple of options you have and things to keep in mind. So let's say, for example, your house is of mid-range value. You want to have a pantry selection, which gives you options even for pullouts, right? Because to be honest, nobody wants to be digging so deep into a pantry to get something. So you get a couple of rollouts. That always adds value for people when they see that. They can be able to visualize themselves in that space. Another thing is, if let's say you have a higher ranged house, right? A higher priced house in the market, you'd be looking at either options of the rollouts in wood finishes, or come with me here, be looking at features of pullouts like this for your pantry. They can get wider, you can have options of them going. So it's also just weighing the value of your home, how much of that are you going to invest in such storage like that, right? Another thing to consider with the functional layout when it comes again to storage is for example, your base cabinetry storage. People like to have stuff like pots and pans. That's actually a popular thing we get a lot of people asking us when they come in, right? So you want to have, you've got some nice deep storage for people to do that. This features one of my favorite drawers, the gray anthracite, has the glass side cabinets. For those who'd like something of interest. But we have many features on the inside, but the key point here is your storage for your pots and pans. Do you want to store them there, or having the cabinets which you open, which has the shelf? It's always good to have a nice balance of the two, because you never know who buys your house, what's their preference. So having a nice balance of the two helps out a lot in that area, right? And then coming with me this way, back to this kitchen here, is cutlery storage. Now, the most interesting thing I've found is it varies from person to person. Some who have a preference to having the four drawers for cutlery. Others could prefer to have a smaller drawer because they may not have as much cutlery, and then deeper storage at the bottom. Now, this doesn't really affect whichever one you choose. It's an important feature to have a storage for your cutlery in there. Okay. Then other nice to haves in a kitchen that will add value to your house is items such as your recycling centers. These are almost becoming a standard necessity in the kitchen, because especially people buying a house, they want to make sure they're putting in the best investment, being able to get the most value for it. So having features like this with additional drawers at the top for extra storage always plays a big role in how people view the value of that kitchen and the house overall. Okay. And then lastly, as far as function goes, you'd be looking at the layout of the kitchen. You know, the other day a friend of mine sent me a picture which had me laughing, but it just kind of illustrates the importance of having the proper layout. So the picture she sent me was, for example, a kitchen like this where you've got the corner and the person chooses to put their cooktop in there. It's like a complete disaster as far as layout goes. I know that's an extreme example, but it just shows you the importance of having a proper layout. How people move from, for example, your cooktop to your fridge to your sink. And again, that's where using the services of a designer will prove to be very helpful, because they'll help you to be able to lay it out in a way that works best for that space. Okay. And then the second one is looking through here to see your questions.
Stella, maybe let people know to send in any questions.
Yes.
About anything you're talking about.
Yes. Thank you, Nelson. That's for sure. Please send us questions of what any questions you may have as I'm going along the way, and be able to answer them for you. Nelson will let me know the questions as we go along the way, and we'll be able to answer that for you. Okay. The next part of it in having a kitchen that adds value to your home is your color choices. So we looked at the style of the cabinets, and I know that's a question many people often wonder: what colors do I go to? I'll throw out a question to you guys, and just give us your comments on the Facebook live chat there. If you're in the market for a new house, what color would send you running out of the door? I know for me personally would be red. What would be yours, Nelson? What would you say?
Oh, in terms of color?
Yeah. What color would drive you absolutely crazy when you get a house?
I think like anything more on the cream side, the yellows, like painted cream colors.
Yeah, right? For everybody, it's different. There's always that color is like absolutely no for them. And that just goes to illustrate that your personal preference of color may not always work for the space, right?
We're getting yellow.
You're getting yellow? I'm glad I didn't wear yellow today.
We've got a question. What door styles do you recommend for someone on a tighter budget?
So for someone on a tighter budget, any other selections from our modern to a transitional style, we have a door style that fits with the budget that you may have. Because of course our slab doors, we've got a much fuller slab door over on that side, but those often would fit with a tighter budget. But we also have, if you have a transitional home, we have a selection of shaker style doors for that kind of space. Okay.
Let me just get the whole question here. Mm-hmm. We have, what are your thoughts about knocking down the wall between the kitchen and the dining room to make the space totally open concept?
Absolutely. If you're able to do that, if your space allows for it, I would encourage that, because what that does, it opens up the space, allows for options such as islands and peninsulas, where even if you've got family or friends, they're able to join you in that space. It becomes more of an entertaining space. As we mentioned earlier, those are things that people are looking at for their spaces. So if you have walls you can be able to knock down and it's possible to do it, absolutely encourage it. And it also increases the square footage of the house marginally, but it does, which also increases the value of the home overall.
The next question we have, are people doing 2 colors of cabinetry?
Yes, so we're getting that often, where you've got people are doing a lot more of the perimeter in one color and then the island. You'll get some times where people do the base cabinetry, but if you're looking at 2 colors and if it's going to be an investment home, it's always better if you're able to keep it to one space, for example, the island, right? Because at least it just kind of allows even people to come and decorate the space to more what they would like in that idea. Okay.
The next question is white shaker style always a safe choice?
Absolute, the safest choice you will get, especially if you're going to trend. Yeah. So the question was, is white shaker a safe choice? And that is the safest choice you'll go. That's what I was actually going to jump into next, about the color choices for an investment home. Because keep in mind, like we were mentioning earlier, that which sometimes a personal preference color may not work for somebody else. So going for safe choices, because for 2 reasons. When you have those neutral, we call them neutral colors, when potential buyers come into the house, those neutral colors create kind of like a canvas in the space. And now a potential buyer can even visualize and imagine how they can put their own personal stamp into that space. Unlike when you've got a different color, for example, a blue. If somebody comes in and they don't like a blue, they absolutely cannot imagine themselves in that space. So it's always recommended, just keep the colors neutral. It allows people to see themselves in that space with that. Okay? And that was the third point, the third way on how to increase the value of your kitchen. Choose neutral color choices that appeal to the wider market. That's the point. The 4th point I'm going to go to is avoiding invisible features. You'd agree, if you've been looking around, if you're currently at the planning stages and had a chance to go out to the shops or they were still open, there's a lot of options for kitchens. You've got gold faucets, high-end brands of appliances, all sorts of different features that are available there. And sometimes you get overwhelmed, is which ones should I go with? Which ones are going to give me the most value in my house? So it's avoiding invisible features, because those are things which don't necessarily add value to the kitchen. It's things that people will not miss if they were not there in the kitchen. For example, if you were to say, I'm going to put in heated floors. When somebody comes in to buy the house, they'll be like, that's a nice feature, but it doesn't really add value to them personally. If it was not there, it's not going to affect their function of that space. So keeping in mind with that, avoiding things that don't necessarily add value. For example, I saw a picture the other day. Someone had a fish tank in the kitchen and they were trying to sell their house, and that was one of the marketing features. Of course, everybody's like, I don't care for a fish tank in the kitchen, right? But that's just an extreme case, just to show you, helping you see, just have things that add value. Don't worry too much about things that don't add value, because, for example, as I mentioned, one of the features of gold faucets, that's a trend that's happening now in kitchens. But if you're choosing to sell your house in 5 years, that's not going to be a reason to have the value of the house go up or down. Right? It's not something that affects people's view of the house. Okay.
We have a question. What was the name of the slim profile door?
Yes, so the question is, what is the name of the slim profile door? This one here. This is the Windermere door that we have, and it's featured in this kitchen where I'm currently standing. You can be able to see it a little bit more around that. Okay. We've got different color options for that. You can be able to see that. Actually, if you get a chance, visit our website. It shows you all the color ranges available in that door style. So if you have a particular preference, and maybe it's the house you want to stay in for the long haul, you have different options you can be able to pick up from there.
The next question is, do you find people are still including desk and home office space in their kitchen? Not
so much. People are tending to go more towards having just like an open island. So if you notice, even what is featured here in our showroom is what is often quite popular. You've got just chairs, you see on that over there in that island. Most of them have the chairs over there. Because keep in mind, here's the other thing that has changed with people a lot as far as a desk goes. The desk would be a feature if someone is using a desktop in the kitchen. Of course, you want it in a different place, but most people are working off of laptops so they can move from one space to the next. Right? So those are some of the features you'd be thinking about with that. Yeah. What's the next question?
We have another question. What are some tricks for getting more counter space in a smaller kitchen?
Tricks for getting more counter space in a small kitchen. Okay, so the best way to do that is making sure you've got, if you have any upper cabinets, increasing a little bit of the height, because the standard height usually is 18, so you go to 57. It kind of makes the space feel a little bit wider. Appliances such as microwaves, which you'll often find would be, sometimes people place them on the countertop because they don't have space. So when you're redesigning your kitchen, fitting your appliances in, for example, like a base cabinet, you'd have your microwave put into that space. Other things, yes, for example, there we go, perfect. Yeah, being able to build that in so that it's not eating up your counter space. Other things that take up counter space storage is, for example, like you've got your cutlery. So making sure you've got storage for that, right? So it's just making sure you've got storage for most of the things that need to have counter space, so that in that way you have a lot more open counter space to work from.
Also, there's a lot of manufacturers that make smaller appliances for smaller space.
Absolutely.
That will save more and more counter space for you. So
exactly. Yes, looking at that. Yeah, looking at smaller appliances for the space. And they do have actually quite a few options out there now for that. You're able to see that. Okay. All right. So moving to the fifth point. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I was going to discuss just 5 key points, and I'll go over them quickly with that so you can see that. So the fifth thing is appliances, as we're talking about it. I mean, who here has felt overwhelmed by the options and features of appliances out there? I know I have. The other day I had to go buy a microwave, and the number of options out there, I just wanted to go bed and cry because I was like, I can't do this. But on a more serious note, it's when you're looking at appliances for an investment home, familiarity inspires confidence with potential buyers. So what does that mean? It means choosing good quality, well-known brands. When you've got a good quality mid-range appliance, that's going to speak more to potential home buyers than a top-of-the-range brand that they don't know, right? So that's something to keep in mind, because oftentimes we get the question, oh, which brand should I buy? That's preference. It comes down to preference, but something that is well known by people and that is a good quality and that has good reviews too as well. There's something to look at with that, okay? So that covers the 5 things, and I'll just kind of go through them over once again for those who may have joined us a little bit later. So 5 things to increase the value of your home. Choose a style that suits your home. Have a functional layout. Choose colors that appeal to the wider population of people. Avoid invisible features in the kitchen. Basically, don't put in stuff that doesn't add value into the kitchen. And finally, choose appliances that are familiar with most potential buyers. Okay, and those are the 5 points I had for you guys today.
Maybe ask if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please go ahead. This is a good time just to let us know. We'll be able to answer that for you as well. And as I mentioned earlier as well, if you're at the planning stages of your project, please feel free to reach out to one of our designers. We can connect with our designers online. It's a good time. I know most people are working from home and you're trying to plan out for your project at a later date. So please feel free to reach out to us. We can start working on some ideas with you on what would work best for your space, right? Yeah. You have any questions coming up? I'm just gonna shut down. Okay, not for now. Okay, so I mean, I'm sure as you're thinking about it, you may have questions later on. So just post them up for us. We'll be able to see them and get back to you on that. Yeah? But thank you so much for joining us.